Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going, and, as I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. There is a lot to cover today in the news, but let's begin with Joe Biden, the former president of the United States, who left office just a little more than 100 days ago. We are now told that he is suffering from an advanced form of prostate cancer. And of course, many of us know individuals who have had prostate cancer, and the life expectancy with a diagnosis of the kind that Joe Biden has is up to 5 years. But the simple truth is, the debate about Joe Biden is over. Now the eulogies begin. Even though he's alive, let's be clear, President Trump has sent prayers, Vice President Harris has sent prayers, people who have been for him, people who have been against him. When a national event, a tragedy takes place, when a former president of the United States, is perilously close to death, there is, without any question, a sense of sympathy. This is normal. Now, I don't know what it will do for Jake Tapper's book, but I can tell you that questions revolving around Joe Biden and whether he should have withdrawn from the presidential race earlier, all those questions will still be debated. But the focus now will be on Joe Biden and his recovery or his demise, or maybe both, because that is the way American politics works. I've known and supported Joe Biden over many years, and I express my deepest hope that the therapy he will receive will help him to overcome this ultimate battle with cancer. I need not remind everybody that his son, Beau, died of cancer, and Joe Biden resolved that he would do everything he could to eliminate cancer. Of course, that has not yet happened, but clearly, the effect of cancer, not only on Joe Biden, but on the country, is real. And so we hope that efforts will be made to redouble our work to eliminate cancer as a cause of illness and death in our society. Not likely, but something that we need to work for. And that brings me to the question of scientific research, because what we're seeing in the Trump administration is a cutback on scientific information and the discovery of new ways of moving. We know that essential services provided by research, including grants to universities and colleges, are being eliminated. We know that very important agencies like NOAA, which deal with weather, are being reduced and, frankly, being almost put out of business. We know that FEMA, the important effort which is used to protect all of us in case of disaster, is now in jeopardy. And we know that even earthquake recovery is in jeopardy. And when you look at what's happening across the South, and I mean particularly now what's happening in these areas being affected by hurricanes, by drought, by heat, well, we know that the climate is changing and our society is changing. And we also know that the Trump administration doesn't seem particularly to be interested in these tragic and difficult moments in human history. And so we proceed on the premise that the Trump administration has turned a blind eye, has closed its coffers, if you will, to scientific research, and that should disturb us all. I want to turn now to another event which is taking place even as we speak. A number of you asked me last Friday why I decided to emphasize the issue of Ukraine. Well, we know today that Donald Trump is speaking by phone with Vladimir Putin and with Volodymyr Zelensky, and that there is now an effort, a concerted effort, to try to resolve the question of what's happening in Ukraine. There is, frankly, in my judgment, no peace prospect on the horizon. There is the potential for a ceasefire. But in order for that to occur, there will have to be concessions, particularly Vladimir Putin, who will have to concede that Ukraine is going to remain an independent nation, that he can no longer call Volodymyr Zelensky a clown, that he has to acknowledge that Ukraine is an independent country. What can Donald Trump really do? He thought that his personal powers of persuasion would resolve an international conflict that is, frankly, causing more devastation than any war in Europe since World War II. Well, we know now that that is not the case. Donald Trump is as stymied as ever. And that doesn't just apply to Ukraine. It applies to the Middle East. The story that emerged last week about shipping 1 million Palestinians to Libya has seemingly died. And the situation in Gaza and the entire Middle East continues to be inflamed. The debate over whether we should be dealing with the new interim president of Syria, who was once identified by the United States as a terrorist, remains a vigorous point of discussion. All of these questions on international affairs continue to dominate everything that we think and do. And all of this, let me point out to you, again returns to the question of science. The decision by the Trump administration to deep six the Paris Accords and the continuing threat given the situation with our weather and climate means that around the world there is greater and greater tension. The need for relief severely cut by Donald Trump's decision to gut AID. There are so many issues, and we want to approach each one with great care. But let's understand something very clearly, that what happens in the White House, the direction given by Donald Trump, is critical on so many different levels. We began with a discussion of Joe Biden and his illness. I prefer to think of Joe Biden when he was at his height, at his best, an advocate, and someone who cared deeply about the things that I care about. What I know is that that is the antithesis of what Donald Trump believes and what he cares about. I wanted to emphasize this today because there will be a lot of reflection in the days ahead, and we will be doing it right here on this podcast, on the question of health and safety and the importance of preserving all of our research and encouraging more research. The major cuts that Donald Trump and his administration are now effecting, frankly, create a tremendous obstacle to all of us who believe that we can do better in the future. That, of course, is a subjective political judgment on the part of yours truly, but I believe it to be true with all my heart. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along and let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which, as I point out each and every day, is our goal. You can interact with me on LinkedIn, Facebook, and of course, many of you email me directly. And you even call me on the phone, which is great. And I appreciate all the feedback. And to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. Thanks, Gogo. We're up and running because of your efforts, and they are greatly appreciated. This is John Rothman, and you are listening to Around the Political World with John Rothman. See you tomorrow.